99% of resumes never get seen by a human. Here's how mine did. I'm gonna break down the resume that got me interviews and offers at places like Google, Amazon, Salesforce, Capital One, and more. I've talked about my recruiting cycles before, but the foundation of it all was my resume and how I set it up. I'm gonna walk through tips to make sure your resume actually gets seen by recruiters, what most people actually mess up on. But first, let's talk about what actually happens when you submit your resume to a role. When you apply to a job, your resume goes through the ATS, or the applicant tracking system. Since most job postings get thousands of applications, the ATS is used to filter most of them out and shortlist the candidates who would actually be a good fit for the role. That's why the most important tip is to optimize your resume for the ATS, not just for a human looking at it. In today's day and age, if your resume passes the ATS, you're most likely going to move forward in that job process. So if the ATS is what actually decides if your resume gets seen, the next question is, how do you actually optimize for it? Your resume to the job description. To do this, you want to carefully read the job description and identify the key skills, tools, and qualifications the company is emphasizing. These are often listed in the requirements and responsibilities section. Then, reflect those same ideas in your resume by highlighting those skills and when you've used them in a real-life situation. This doesn't mean copying the job description word for word, but rather aligning your past work with what the job description is actually asking for. Integrating these keywords can be pretty hard. So an easy way to do this is to paste the job description in your resume into your favorite LLM and ask it how it would change your bullet points minimally while still integrating these skills into them. You don't want the LLM to completely rewrite everything, but it can give you useful changes that you can manually implement. This allows you to keep your genuine feel of your resume while also increasing your ATS score at the same time. Now, even after tailoring your resume, an important tip is to always keep your resume to one page. A big mistake I see people making is them trying to include everything they've ever worked on, since they think having more experience is directly linked to being a better candidate. But the reality is, more content doesn't make your resume stronger. Better content does. And when you're limited to one page, every single line has to earn its place. Because recruiters aren't reading your resume from top to bottom. They're scanning it quickly, looking for keywords. And that means how you organize your resume becomes extremely important. So let's break down the exact structure you should be using, section by section. Starting from the top, you want to keep your header super clean. Just your name, email, phone number, and a couple links, like your GitHub or your LinkedIn. The goal is just to make it easy for somebody to contact you and see your online presence. Next is the education section. If you're a student or early in your career, this should be at the top. Include your school, degree, major, and GPA only if it's above a 3.5. You can also include relevant coursework, but only if it adds value to the role you're applying to. Now for the most important section by far, your experience. This is where most people either stand out or get rejected. For each experience, don't just list out what you did. Focus on what you achieved. A good way to think about this is to actually think about what did I actually do in this role. You should say something like, built a backend API that handled X requests per day and improved performance by Y%. And if you don't have exact numbers about what you worked on, estimate it. You want to show scale, impact, and real usage whenever possible. Another thing here, only include your most impactful experiences. You don't need 5 internships listed. 2 or 3 strong experiences that show real-world impact are way better than a long list of weak ones. After experience, you should include the project section. This is especially important if you don't have a lot of internship experience yet, since projects can make up for that. They always say you need experience to get experience, but in the tech world, that's not necessarily true. Having strong projects in your resume can be the difference of getting a job and getting completely rejected. Make sure your projects are real and not just tutorial based. If you want to learn the best way to create projects with the newest AI tools, comment down below. And finally, you have your skills section. Keep this simple and honest. Just list the languages, frameworks, and tools that you've used before. And keep in mind, anything you list in this section is fair game on interviews, so make sure you know it well. Now for the part you've been waiting for, my full resume and the template I use. Here's the resume that got me multiple interviews and offers at various big tech companies. I use Jake's template, which is a template that has been proven to be ATS readable and scannable. If you want to learn more about the recruiting process and how to actually land a big tech job in 2026, follow along.